Right, I haven't done one of these for a bit. This is completely unscripted. This is my morning routine, okay? So it's not Pilates, it's not just stretches, there's a little bit of everything because I'm getting old and everything doesn't work quite as well and I'm quite stiff, etc. when I get up in the morning. So this has become my morning routine. Sometimes I have to speed it up a bit, sometimes I add a few more bits into it. But it's basically just a kind of a waker upper sort of thing while I'm having my brew. I haven't got a brew. I also thought the world wasn't ready for me because I did it in my pyjamas, to be fair. The world wasn't quite ready for me in my pyjamas at like 8 o'clock in the morning. So, without further ado, I've not moved any furniture around. You'll have to make do with wherever I am and hopefully you can see what I'm doing. So, all I do, I start, and yes, it is going to be just off screen probably, with a couple of roll downs, just as you would in Pilates, using your core. And you just roll your head, your neck, your shoulders, keep the knees soft. And don't go all the way to the floor in the morning, not really get there. Breathing in, exhale and roll up. And then just stretching up and rolling down. I actually find this whole little routine quite therapeutic now. At first it was like, pain in the arse, can't be arsed doing it. But as I've gotten into doing it regularly, I know you can't see my head, I am here. It's kind of, just sort of sets you up for the day really, without being overly energetic. So I'm not a morning person at all, not even slightly, and I'm getting worse because I don't work very much anymore at all. So I just do a couple more. Sometimes I only do 2 or 3, sometimes I kind of get into the zone, and I want to do about 10. So it really does depend really whether you've got 10 minutes in the morning or 20. That's all it is. So then I roll down. And for the more observant amongst you, yes, there are more plants. Okay, so I've also got a dodgy knee at the moment, so you'll see me shuffling around a bit. Hopefully you can see me. All right, so I basically do a level 1 swan dive to start with. So I've got my arms out wide, not near my head, and my legs, I really stretch them out, pull my tummy in, and as I breathe out, I just lift, I just roll the upper body up and lower. And like I say, this is not strictly Pilates, so, breathe wherever you want, but do make sure you're engaging your abs a little bit. And I do a few of these, quite like these in the morning. So try to keep the arms relaxed. I'm a bit of a swine, tensing the shoulders. And again. And then I might decide to push up a little bit. So rather than just doing like a swan divey kind of thing, I might go into a cobra position. I should stand my hair back really. So hands a little bit closer to the shoulders for me, and then I just roll up. And in the morning, my back doesn't bend hardly at all. And then roll down. But what I do is, I don't force it. I just do one and then another, and then another, and I just keep rolling it out. And then eventually it does kind of loosen the back a little bit. And depending on how I'm feeling, I might push up and just give it a little hold for a few seconds. I must admit, in the morning, I tend not to do that. I just find it's just a bit too much for my lower back. So I just stretch it out and roll back. And once I've done that, I do mix these up a little bit, by the way, but I just do a little child's pose, really. And again, in the morning, I'm not saying my bum gets to my heels or my heels get to my bum. Bum to heels. But I just stretch it out. And then I just walk the hands to one side, just so we stretch out that upper back. And then just fiddle them over. Walk a little crab walking across to the other side. and then up onto all fours. I've got a dodgy knee at the moment, so I'll be doing this gingerly, I can tell you. Okay, so my first one, I might just do a few lateral flexions from side to side. So just lifting the foot, keeping the knee down, bend through the waist, turn to look at the foot. You can tell this isn't scripted, can't you? And back, other foot lift, and back. Probably do about 3 of those on each side. Make sure you're bending through the waist, you're not tipping to the side, you're literally bending, so you're laterally flexing the spine. So you're bending it to the side. And one more. And then a couple of cat stretches as I'm feeling in the mood. So, literally, if you just tuck your tailbone under, roll up, and roll down. And when I do these in the morning, first thing, I am quite stiff in the morning. I tend to have my knees maybe a teeny bit wider than hip distance, a little bit. And I just find that frees up this area here between your SI joints, and it just kind of makes it a little bit easier to just get a little bit of mobility going in your back. So I can do these all day, actually, I quite like these. So these are all dead easy little stretches and exercises. And then, if I can be bothered, I do a couple of Supermans. But again, in the morning, I do struggle, I really do. I'm terrible. So what I do for the first couple is I don't do full Superman. I brace the core, pelvis flat, and then I just stretch without lifting and back. In some mornings, to be honest, that's all I do. Literally, stretch and back. Now some of these exercises are a little bit specific to me that's coming up, or stretches, but I thought I'd just share them with you anyway. And I have already done these once today, so I've been a good girl. And then sometimes in the morning I'll leave it at that. Otherwise, if I'm feeling it, I'll just stretch, keeping my tummy in. Don't forget that bit. Like I say, I'm not doing Pilates at all. Sorry, I just got the peace lily again. And lower. It's not a Pilates class as such, it's just literally what I do to try and keep things, or more or less to get things moving a little bit rather than anything else. Because it is easy, well I do anyway, just sit there scrolling through social media with your brew doing out. So this stops me doing it. I do this before I even pick my phone up. It's the only way. Okay, you can do as many of those as you want, whatever you want to do. I always do a child's pose after I've done Superman. It always just makes me feel a little bit stretchy. Okay, so from there, don't do right a lot really. I'll roll down onto the mat, and again, there's no roll-ups or anything like that. There's no advanced exercises whatsoever. Just literally plonk myself down on the floor, feet flat. I'm going to get in the way of this chaise long here a bit. Arms out wide, and then I just wriggle my feet, maybe not close right together, but fairly close together. Bracing my core, and then literally just breathing out. Swing the knees to one side. Breathing in, pulling the abs in, and breathing out. So if you're doing Pilates, it's basically level 1 hip rolls, and all I'm doing is loosening the pelvis and lower back. Again, in the morning, I do feel it pulling a little bit, because like most people, I think a lot of us are of a certain age where things start to ache a little bit. So it just starts to free them up. So My knees don't actually go all the way over in the morning when I first get up. It takes 2 or 3 of these before it starts moving. And then when I've done about 3 each side, or 6 depending on how stiff I am, all I do then is bring the knees over and just relax. And I'll hold this for about 20, maybe 20 seconds, something like that. So once you've done 20 seconds on one side, can't hear my clock ticking when I'm talking. Bring the knees up and swing them over to the other side. Again, just relax into it. Don't force it, just let them flop wherever they're going to do. Nature will do the rest, gravity will do the rest. If they're not going to go to the floor, they're not going to the floor, it wouldn't matter. Just let them relax. Let it stretch. And then pulling the abs in, going to bring it back. And then I might enthusiastically do a bit of shoulder bridge. Okay, so just bring my hands a little bit closer. I can keep them out wide, but I'm normally too stiff in the morning for that. So generally bring them in a little bit closer, wriggle my feet up. Again, I might put my feet a little tiny bit wider than my hips in the morning, because my back's always just dead tight in the morning. Well, most of me is, to be honest. Just normal shoulder bridge, breathe out, roll up. Again, don't force it, just push enough to get a little bit of a hip flex stretch. Breathing in and breathe out. Roll down. Really imprinting that lower back, which is hard in the morning. Breathing in, breathe out. Pushing up. Again, breathing in and out. You can mess around with your arms. I mean, if you're super flexible, you can take them a bit wider or above your head. I don't tend to do that because I find my lower back doesn't hit the floor too well. If you're really struggling and you're dead stiff, take your feet a bit wider still. Roll up. Makes it a lot easier because your pelvis is opened out a little bit. And it just frees up and you're not as tight in this lower back area. And roll down. So you can do as many of those as you would like. So just roll up. And roll down. And then just wriggling my feet a little bit closer together. Bringing the hands up above the chest, palms together. So, you'd think, like, why would you do your abs in the morning? But if you think about it, they're your postural muscles, a part of your postural muscles. It's a good idea just to fire them up a little bit. So, hands up, exhale, roll up just a little way. And then breathe in, roll back and just allow the pelvis to roll slightly off the mat, so roll forwards. I can do these all day, so I actually quite like these. Roll back. And again. You get as many of those as you want. And then what I do is I switch to the sides. So I move my arms right out to one side. So that's my right hand side. I know it looks like it's the left on there because it's mirrored. Okay, and then I do the same. I roll on the edge of my ribs. Not on the back, but on the edge of the ribs. And then roll back as the hips lift. I'm still on the outside of the ribs, so that your actual backbone bit isn't touching the floor. You've twisted over a little bit. And then you can do as many as you want on one side. And then do exactly the same number on the other. So roll up and roll. And one more for me. Roll up and down. Okay. I'm just wriggling down. I slid off the end of the mat there. Okay, so now I'm going to run out of room here in a minute. So we're just going to quickly do a lower back stretch. So stretch one leg out No, I'm not. I'm going to do something slightly different. I told you this wasn't scripted, didn't I? So I'll do the low back stretch in a minute. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to straighten one leg along the floor. I'm going to bring the other knee in. So this is one of my little things that I like to do. And I don't find it comfortable because my hip does plunk a bit when I do this. But literally, I really pull it out, around and in. And I'll circle it around and around and around. I do a minimum of about 10 circles when I do this in one direction. And then obviously, I reverse them. So when I've done about, I don't know, 10, 12, 15, whatever I'm feeling like, I then do the same in the other direction. One way always feels easier than the other. And then once we've done, again, same number of circles, so you could be circling a bit longer, just draw that knee in towards you. You can put your hands behind, by the way, if it's any more comfortable. Stretch it in. And this is then the tricky bit in my living room, because then I have to bring this leg over and stretch the back like that. So I'm trying to stretch it underneath. I can just kick my barbell and just stretch. Now this I will hold for a minimum of 30 seconds. And what I do is I'm not forcing it. You can feel it pulling, kind of there. And also it's obviously stretching out here. I don't force it, I just let it kind of do its own thing and just gently ease the leg over. Got to keep this shoulder down and just stretch. If it's too much with the leg straight, you can bend the knee. Do it that way. I know you can't see, but it's bent. Like I say, minimum 30 seconds for this one, the knee. And then, when you've done that side, stretch that leg away, bring the other one in, and you're going to do those circles again. So like I say, whatever you did on one side, and I really do drag and pull this round a little bit. I'm not frightened of it. I actually want to feel it really stretching and moving around in the hip socket. So once I've done however many I did on the other leg, go the other way around. Really draw it round. I like these as well. I don't like that they're horrible. It's kind of like an unpleasant liking. So again, once I've done same number on one side, and then I'm just going to draw that knee into the chest a little bit more. Stretch it and stretch. Make sure you're stretching the other leg away while you're doing it. And then I just roll it over. And like I say, bent or straight leg. That one's straight. My foot looks enormous now. Okay, and I just allow it. I still got my shoulder on the floor. Just allow it to stretch. And really try and let it relax. If you hold tension, you're not going to let it relax. So if it's too much, bend the knee a bit and let it relax that way. Just let everything just stretch over. We've got to make sure the shoulder on the opposite side is flat on the floor. You do that, you're not stretching, okay, when it comes off the floor, so you've got to really keep it down. So again, whatever you did on the other side, you're going to do on this side. It's 30 seconds or a minute, minimum 30 seconds for me on this one. And then when I'm ready, just bring the legs up, circle everything round a couple of times in each direction. And then enthusiastically roll up to a seated position. No roll-ups. Okay. Right, now these stretches that are coming up are fairly specific for me because my legs get absolutely hammered, as does my chest and front of the shoulders. So do a lot of people's. So I do these every single day, and sometimes I do these twice a day now. They don't seem to get any stretchier, but I have to assume I'm not getting worse. So the first one I'm going to attempt to show you, which is quite difficult, is the chest. So, oh, you're going to get a real close-up of my bum now. So basically, put my hands on the edge of the sofa. Kneeling position, and then literally just sink down. Till you start to feel the stretch at the chest, so it's top of your pecs, into the front of your shoulders. And just relax. Again, don't force it, especially if you're doing these first thing in the morning. Don't force them. They might be relaxed, you've been asleep all night, but they're not really ready for being totally stretched out. So it's just getting them going a little bit for me. But I always do a little bit of those exercises first before I do the stretches, just so everything's kind of warmed up a little bit. So again, I do minimum of 30 seconds for that one. Now, I don't normally do these neck stretches over at this end of the room. I have my own little corner at the other end of the room because I'm using both hands for support. One's on the dining room table and one's on the sideboard. So today I'm only going to be able to show you with one, because I'm not turning all the camera around and everything. So, my first stretch is, we'll do hamstring first, which is standing. Now, this is tricky because I haven't got anything much to hold on to. I could do that maybe. Does it, no, my leg doesn't reach. So, basically, about that height, or a bit higher, but I will be holding on to something. I put my leg up. And it is important when you do it to hold on to something, because otherwise all you're doing is trying to balance. To do it properly, I'm going to put my hands on my leg, which I know I always tell you not to do, but I'm doing it for these because these are mine. And basically, I don't do that, okay, and roll and stretch over. I'm keeping, this is why I need something to hang on to here, I'm keeping my back totally straight. So I'm looking to my toes, hands are on the leg. If you're not comfortable with that, just keep them out the road. Oh, sorry, on this one, no, hands aren't on your leg. I'm lying, aren't I? I have one hand on the leg, one on the thingy. And then, but you're keeping your back straight. So you're suddenly going to find you don't get as far by any stretch, but you should straight away feel a pull in your hamstrings. So sorry, in this stretch, I have one hand for support on something, and the other one is on my leg. Okay, I don't put it on the knee itself, but I do put it on the leg. So I probably have this hand resting on something. And what I do is I lean forward and I'm keeping my back straight. And you want to get to where you're actually going. Oh, and that's where you want to be, literally. Otherwise you're not really, really stretching it. So I'm just bending this leg slightly. Don't go too deep. So remember, I'm hanging on to something here, so I've got some pressure to put on it, and I'm pushing like crazy. And I can assure you, you will feel that your hamstring is about to rip in half. It shouldn't. Okay, so like I say, I would be holding on to something, because when you're worried about your balance, you aren't stretching properly. And I know I've done this in some of our classes, and people insist on holding the leg up behind them and doing, you're not stretching. So hold on to something and stretch. So I do those for a minimum of 30 seconds and then do the other one. Okay, so the other thing is when you are resting your hand on your leg like I am, it is better to have your other hand on something for support in case you fall. So again, it's your back is straight as you come forward. It's bending that knee ever so slightly. It's very easy to do that. I don't want you to do that. I want you to keep your back straight. Stick your arse out a little bit, you know, stick it out behind you, if you can think about doing that. And feel that pulling. Okay. So remember, I'd be like that. I'd be holding on to something now with my other hand, with this hand on the leg. It's really weird not doing it in a normal place. I have a little cubby hole in that corner over there between the sideboard and the table where I do these. So I'm stretching, stretching, stretching. Like I said, I will do this for 30 seconds. Definitely 30 seconds when I do them in the morning. As the day progresses, if I do them again, which I generally do, I do them for 45 seconds to a minute, the same stretch. So, having done that one, it's time for quads. Okay, no, all the way around. It's not easy when you're looking in the mirror as well, like that. Okay, so when you do this, you're in that position. You're not in that position. Your leg is under you, like that. You take your back foot, you hold your foot. Now, again, you've got something to push on. Again, I would be using a table. It's a little bit higher, so I've got a bit more leverage. And what you do, it's quite hard to describe this one. You start to draw your foot right into your bottom. And you certainly don't round your back, and you don't hollow it either. You just push slightly forwards with the hip, the leg that you're holding. And the stretch, you want to feel it there. If you feel it in your hip flexors, you've gone too far like that forwards, okay? You don't want to go forwards. There's a massive difference between your quads and your hip flexors. And then once you start to feel it in your quad, start to pull that foot up even more. Again, this is another 30-second jobby, extended to a minute or so later in the day. Because like I said, I generally do these twice a day, these stretches. Not the little Pilates exercises before, but I do the stretches. So once I've done one side, it's my dodgy knee now. Right, so same thing, once the knee's up, once it's there, it's all right. Okay, so it's the same thing. Move it back a bit. Got my weight on something I'm really pushing against what my hand is on. And again, the other thing to check is that your whole torso is actually pointing forwards and that you haven't collapsed like that, so you're pointing forwards. And then once I start to feel the stretch, just pushing forwards slightly, just pushing that bottom. I'm not tightening the muscles, I'm just generally pushing it forwards. And drawing that foot in even more. And this is my tight quad, so I really feel this. The more I can do it, the better. So just talk amongst yourselves while I'm doing this. Just keep drawing that foot in. Don't forget to breathe into your stretches, by the way. It's always good as you're exhaling, just push a little harder. And then when you've done, obviously, your 30, 45 seconds or a minute, you're good to go. Right, next one is, I think we should have to do this one. Okay, so I'm just switching around. Let's say it's not quite in the right place for me, this. So, hip flexor. Yes, we love hip flexors. So, it's actually the one that you can't see that I'm stretching. So, I've got my front foot quite far forward. I'm turning my back foot in slightly. Like I said, this isn't in the right place. It needs to be about there. Because when I do this in my little corner, I have one hand either side like that, and I really am pushing. Because I come down, and I keep going down and down, okay? So imagine I've got my hands up here, and I'm pushing down and down. Don't get as much leverage when you're not really levering on something, but one side is better than none to have something to hold on to. And then as you start to go a little deeper, just try and let your butt cheek relax, okay? Just keep relaxing. Keep your back straight and just keep lowering down and forwards. And with these stretches, your quads and these hip flexors and your hamstrings, you need to feel it. You really, really need to feel that. Oh, that's kind of, yeah, I can feel that. That's how you should feel about it. It shouldn't be, oh, nice little stretch. So again, I'll do my, whatever it is, 30 seconds, 45 seconds or a minute. And then, oh, I mean literally, yeah, it's like, oh. When I've done that, I change sides. Oh, something to hold on to this time. So, front foot forward, back foot turned in slightly, coming down. Like I said, I can get a bit more leverage on this now because it's higher. I can come right down. And again, torso facing forwards. Stretch, and then if you feel your butt cheek clenching, don't. Just let it relax and just let kind of gravity's going to do it for you. Just down and forwards. Like I said, when you've got this this much to lever on, you can get so much deeper. And I can honestly tell you, especially this hip flex because it's tight like the quad, it's really, really actually not very pleasant. It shouldn't feel pleasant. It should feel horrible. Bet you missed all this, haven't you? Not pushing yourselves, I know. So just lower down and forwards. So again, once I've done me whatever it is, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, I come back up. And just to show you the difference, if I did that stretch now, with nothing, bear in mind in that one I would have one hand on either side, on probably about that. Okay, if I do that, you can't get as deep because you're wobbling around all over the place. So it might look good that you can do it, especially when you see people doing that flipping standing quad stretch like that. Woo! Not stretching, waiting. Right, my last stretch, you're pleased to know, is the pigeon. Love pigeon stretch. I'm going to show you how to do this a little bit more painfully. Right, so, which side will show best? If I do that? Yeah, I'll do that one. Okay, so I'm going to bring this foot up. Now, those of you that do my classes know I don't have the most flexible hips on the planet. So, if your foot comes up here somewhere, that's absolutely splendid. Mine doesn't, okay? Mine sits down here somewhere. However, I'm going to make it painful for myself. So, I come down as normal into my pigeon, making sure the leg is straight out behind you. And I just kind of relax down here for a bit. But now is, put this wrong way around really to show you. Tell you what, just have a coach yourselves. You're all in your pigeon, aren't you? Right, I'm just moving sides so you can see what I'm doing. Right, okay, so no, just pretend nothing happened. So I'm here, and then what I do, after the first 15 seconds or 10 seconds, I slowly push this hip out and down to the side, just a little way. You should feel more of a stretch. And then maybe after another 10 or 15 seconds, it depends how long I'm doing the stretch for. So if it's a minute, I tend to do it in 20-second increments. If it's a 30-second one, I do it in 10-second increments. And literally, you start to push that hip out, 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 out. Don't let your upper body collapse. I tend to move my hands over to the other side to kind of stop me